Good evening. Welcome to Hodomania by Benjamin Simpson. The story this evening is a nonfiction slice of life called By the Side of the Road. This story was originally read aloud in 2006 at the Story Salon Reading Group in Los Angeles. About a month ago, I awoke early on a Saturday. The window was black as I turned on the shower, but was turning dark blue as I put on my leathers and grabbed my helmet. Riding slowly along Santa Monica Boulevard out of West Hollywood, I gave myself time for the coffee to kick in and the initial cold shivers to dissipate and warmth of my body to fill the jacket. The streets were quiet, and I was able to calmly ride through green traffic lights. There was mist over everything, softening the world. The hard, angled buildings now had vague corners. There was no distant view, just a soft, gently fading. I love this weather. For some reason, it feels comforting. I don't know why. The road flowed off Santa Monica Boulevard and onto the 101 freeway south. The entrance ramp dropped down with a view of the freeway curving off into the distance. There were almost no cars, wide empty lanes heading off into the infinite. Leaning forward, gently twisting the throttle, I could feel the power building. The soft trundling along city streets faded away as the revs lifted higher, and I was pushed back, holding on. Cutting across the empty lanes, up a gear and another, the wind noise starting in the helmet, the exhaust lifting higher off behind, and that feeling of power and speed. The fog softened the landscape, wandering slowly past. The bridges were way up ahead, and then suddenly behind with a whoosh. Everything faded away. No freeway edges, no sides, no buildings, no city, no schoolwork, no job hunting, no rent payments, no existential dread. Just the right hand on the throttle, my toes on the pegs. The flitting white lines, the long, slow curves, the bridges, and the occasional car. This is why I ride a motorcycle. Why I see the statistics and still ride. The moment when this is all, this feeling of speed and independence and whipping cold and inner warmth and an indescribable joy of being alive. Knowing that you are here at the moment and this is all there is, and it is beautiful. An hour later, I arrived at the journalism conference buzzing. I could feel the electric blood flowing through my hands, and I walked back and forth through the parking lot, enjoying this feeling for a little while, before finally forcing myself to join the conference and talk to people. That day, I went to meetings, heard talks, and learned some things. But in the Photoshop class late in the afternoon, my stomach started to roll. I thought it was the afternoon vending machine coffee, but it got worse and worse. When the class ended, I found a quiet bathroom upstairs with no one around, and everything came out of my intestines in a rush. It was not good. But I thought, that's it, all the bad out of me. I went back down to the conference and the closing ceremony. By the time the ceremony started, I was standing at the back of the hall, as close to the bathroom as possible. I survived the ceremony, but I just didn't feel right. It was now time to go home. I went to the bathroom to change back into my leathers, and I stood in the stall, feeling my stomach roll. After a short time, I threw up. Now I had emptied everything out of my intestines and my stomach, I thought. That should be it. Nothing more to void. My legs were weak, walking from the bathroom to the motorcycle. I stood next to it and cursed the day I bought it. The damn motorcycle is cold and uncomfortable and dangerous and impractical, and I never wanted to ride the fucking thing again. I was shivering. I knew that I had to ride that cursed thing from Fullerton back home. I took a deep breath, concentrated my mind, climbed on, and headed on to the freeway. On normal days, when the traffic is slow, like this, I split lanes, happily slipping between cars at 20 miles an hour as everyone else sits still. But that takes concentration, 1,000 thoughts a second, calculating speed, angle, distance, and the demeanor of all those distracted humans in their cars. Today I sat in the middle of the slow lane, behind a truck, breathing fumes and grumbling about life. Somewhere near where the 101 peels off from the 5, sitting at a dead stop between trucks, I felt that my body had more that it wanted to come up. I visualized puking into my full-face helmet on the freeway. Vividly. Did not help. I contemplated upcoming freeway exits and was not happy with my choices. Sitting on the curb outside a strange house in a strange neighborhood, puking in the gutter was not an optimal scenario. I held it down, swallowing repeatedly, and pulled out from behind the truck, forcing my mind to focus on the cars and lanes, pushing myself to get forward as fast as possible, stay alive, and not puke. The exit behind Union Station came up, and I took that. At the exit, there was a Denny's restaurant. I thought about throwing up in the parking lot, but kept moving. At the next corner was a small patch of green next to the road. I parked my bike, took off my gloves and helmet, and sat on the little curb and shivered and waited. It took about a minute before it came up. I made a filthy little puddle in the grass. I looked around and watched the people across the street and did more dry heaves and realized that the prison is right across the way. I wondered if someone was stuck in a cell and was watching me vomit across the road. The brewery, where many of my friends live, was close, and I considered going there, but I wanted my own bed. I wanted my own place. I did not want to bother them what was coming out of my body. Logically, I deduced that I was more than halfway home and could make it again before puking. I did make it home without puking again. I curled up in bed, and after a few minutes finally stopped shivering, drank some water, and fell asleep, only to be woken up at 1 a.m. to my stomach forcibly removing the water. I couldn't sleep. It was 2 in the morning, and I felt beaten, worn out, destroyed, broken. I started to think about the things I had done wrong yesterday, last month, last year. So I got up and wrote this, which helped a little. Thank you for listening, and have a good night.